Hi Algebra 1B students. Today we're going to start reviewing all of the material that we learned in Algebra 1A before we move on to the new exciting things in Algebra 1B. So the first thing we talked about in Chapter 1 were variables and expressions. A quantity is the first definition we had, and that's anything that you can measure or count. Sometimes they're constant and sometimes they vary or change, which is what a variable is. So some examples are things like populations, areas, flight time. Things that can't be counted are like stars in the sky, the amount of hairs on your head, things like that it's too hard to quantify. A variable is a symbol, usually a letter, that represents an unknown amount or one that varies. The most common variables we use are x and y, although any letter in the alphabet, A, B, and then sometimes we use Greek symbols like theta. Those are all examples of variables. An algebraic expression is a mathematical phrase that has one or more variables. Notice it does not have an equation, not an equal sign. That is not an expression. An expression does not have an equal sign. So we'll put that under no example, no equal sign. So an example would be like 2x plus 6 or 5xy minus 2zy. A numerical expression is a mathematical phrase that has numbers and symbols but no variables. So in this one, there are no variables. So that would be things like 2 plus 2 or 5 times 5. Those are numerical expressions, just numbers. We already talked about a variable. So here are some examples we're going to run through quickly. What's an algebraic expression for each word phrase? 25 more than a number n. So 25 is our number, n is our variable, and more than tells us that we would want addition. So 25 plus n, or you could also write n plus 25. 74 less than a number n. So when we have less than, that tells us that we want to subtract, but the order in which we subtract does matter. So there is only one correct way to write this. You're taking 74 from a number n, so it must be written as n minus 74. Here's another one. 5 times a number n, that's pretty straightforward. That means multiplication, so we would write it as 5 times n. We can also just write it as 5n, as that tells us that we are multiplying as well. You don't need the multiplication symbol. Quotient tells us that we're going to divide. And just like with subtraction, the order in which we divide is important. So if we're taking the quotient of a number n and 7, it would be n over 7. You could also write it as n with the division sign, 7. Do the following phrases mean the same thing? Why or why not? 6 less a number y, 6 less than a number y. They do not mean the same thing. 6 less a number y is 6 minus y, but 6 less than a number y tells us that the order needs to be switched. That is y minus 6. And like I mentioned before, that's because subtraction is not commutative. The order in which you subtract does change the difference. Here are some more complicated phrases. Try these for yourself. Pause the video, try these for yourself, and then come back to see if you did them correctly. For more than twice a number x, you're adding 4 to 2 times x, so you could write 4 plus 2x, or you could have 2x plus 4. 7 less than the quotient of 8 and a number x. We're taking 7 away from this quotient, so the quotient needs to be done first. So we will have 8 divided by y minus 7. the product means we're multiplying. We're multiplying 9 and a sum. So since we have a sum there, that means that's an addition problem that must be done first. So in order to complete the addition part first, we would need parentheses. So we're going to have in parentheses x plus 2, that's the sum we're taking, and then we're multiplying that by 9. So I'm going to put a 9 out front. You could put the 9 in the back as well. What word phrase can you use to represent the algebraic expression? So now we're going to do the opposite of what we just did. You're given the expression, and now we want to use some words to explain it. Now there is not one right or wrong answer here. There could be multiple answers. So if you're unsure, just make sure you check with me or someone else to see if your expression is correct. So here we could say a number x plus 9.3. You could say 9.3 more than number x, increasing a number x by 9.3. Those are all acceptable answers. 8x plus 6, we could say 8 times a number x plus 6, or 6 more than the product of 8 and a number x is another acceptable one. The next one would be, one correct solution could be a number n divided by 5. You could also say the quotient of n and a number 5. The last one, 4x minus 2, you could say 2 less than the product of 4 and a number x. The table in the next slide shows how the cost of renting a scooter depends on how long the scooter is rented. What is a rule for the total cost? Give the rule in words and as an algebraic expression. So the table shows us that the first hour, the cost is $17.50. The second, if you rent the scooter for 2 hours, it would be $25. 3 hours would be $32.50. 4 hours would be $40. 5 hours would be $47.50. So first we should see how much it's increasing by each hour. So it seems as though it's not going up by $17.50, so it's not that it costs $17.50 per hour, but there is some sort, it seems like there's an amount that gets charged and then an increase for the number of hours. So if we find the difference between the first and second hour, the price difference, that would be an increase of $7.50. And we should see if that's going to be the same as we increase the number of hours. So if we go from 2 to 3 hours, that's also increasing by $7.50. And again, from 3 to 4 hours, and again, from 4 to 5 hours. So it seems as though the price increases by $7.50 each hour. So each hour costs $7.50. But if we take $7.50 away for 0 hours, we would be at $10. We wouldn't be at $0. So do you pay $10 to rent a scooter for 0 hours? Well, that doesn't really make sense, because if you're not going to rent the scooter, you're not going to pay anything. So the $10 would be like the initial fee that is charged for renting the scooter. And then you are also charged $7.50 for each hour after that. So each hour costs $7.50, and the initial fee is $10. So the way we could write that is, regardless as to how long you rent the scooter, you're going to pay $10 plus you're going to pay $7.50 for each hour that I'm going to represent by H. So $10 for the initial fee plus $7.50 for each hour that you rent the scooter. So that's our recap from section 1 about variables and expressions.